The Steam Deck dock just got delayed. How's it going, everyone, and welcome to Deck Ready, the channel all about the Steam Deck. In today's video, we are going over the latest Steam Deck news, and I figured the best one to start out with would be this dock delay. I think for a little bit now, we knew this was coming because the date that Valve was giving us on the dock was just a generic spring 2022, and we are rapidly approaching the end of spring. I mean, right now, while I'm filming this, it's June 2nd. So yeah, spring is ending in just a few days, and we have heard nothing about the dock other than the fact that Valve has been doing upgrades behind the scenes, like adding a full gigabit port and an extra USB port, which is good. But yeah, they basically said what we all feared. The dock is delayed indefinitely for now, but it will not affect Steam Deck shipping in any way. I'm just going to read it in Valve's own words. They said, "Hi all, due to part shortages and closures at our manufacturing facilities, the official Steam Deck docking station is delayed. We're working on improving the situation and we'll share more info when we have it. This has no effect on production schedule and reservation windows for Steam Decks, different parts, different factories. In the meantime, the team is continuing to work on improving the docked experience for Steam Deck with all USB hubs and external displays." The article they posted also has a nice little shot of the Steam Deck dock, which is nice to see. And yeah, I'm glad that they're focusing more on external USB-C docks that already exist, because there are plenty of them out there. If you just search for USB-C hubs on Amazon, the amount of stuff that you get is absolutely crazy, and some of them have been causing issues with the Steam Deck. Like when you plug them in and unplug them, the Steam Deck doesn't want to go back into screen mode. It just wants to stay in external screen mode. And the only way to fix that was to completely hard reset the device, which obviously isn't great. There were also issues where the Steam Deck would take a while to register how many monitors were plugged in or which one was going to stay the primary monitor. And if you have a monitor plugged in when you turn the device on and it automatically goes into game mode, sometimes the scaling is off. So in the meantime, it's good to know that Valve is going to be taking a look at that stuff and making sure that the docks that people are buying on Amazon and stuff like that are going to work with the device, because there are so many other options out there, which is a double-edged sword, right? Like, it's great that you can get so many different devices that will do the same thing as Valve's official dock, but then because of that, Valve has to make sure this device works with those docks. But for the most part, it's been pretty good, I think, at least. It kind of bums me out just a little bit that they're not giving us any sort of window on when we can expect their official dock. I was at least hoping this delay would only push it to the end of the summer, you know, August or September, maybe have it shipped this fall. But the fact that they're not even narrowing it down to like the end of the year 2022 kind of makes me nervous that this could be pushed into 2023. Thankfully though, there are plenty of 3D printable options that you can just find on the Steam Deck subreddit. I was actually sent one that's great. It's a Steam Deck stand that lets you just put the Steam Deck on it, but it doesn't cover up the vent on the back of the device. And the person who made it, I'll feature their store down in the description. They also have a bunch of different docks that have little clips for USB-C hubs. So if you have the generic one that everyone's buying on Amazon, you can just clip it on the back of this Steam Deck stand or dock or whatever you want to call it, and then you have your own custom Steam Deck dock. And I'll also make sure to link my favorite USB-C hubs down in the description as well. You want to make sure you get one that has power pass-through with 45 watts of power being delivered at least. I've seen some that go all the way up to 95 watts because they want to make sure they work with the newest MacBooks that have USB-C ports. That, you know, like the MacBooks take a lot higher power than the Steam Deck, so they want to make sure the power pass-through is a lot higher than it needs to be for the Steam Deck, which is great. I gotta be real though, I personally haven't used the Steam Deck docked all that much since it came out, despite the fact that I have plenty of ways to do so. I like the idea of playing it on the TV, but there are very few games that I would use the Steam Deck to play on my TV with versus just using my gaming laptop, which is a Razer Blade 14 with a 3080. It has an HDMI port in it, so if I want to play something like Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga or Destiny 2 or God of War or any of these bigger games on my TV, I'm just going to default more to my gaming laptop versus plugging my Steam Deck in. Where having the dock feature has come in really handy though is installing things like Battle.net, trying to get Diablo Immortal running, which turned out to be a frustrating experience, or doing stuff like setting up EmuDeck. That was so much easier using a keyboard, mouse, and monitor than it was the first time I did it on my original Steam Deck using the trackpad and the right trigger every time I had to close Steam when I wanted to use Steam ROM Manager. So yeah, having the dockability is great. I'm glad they're improving it, but as far as I'm concerned, it works really well as it is now. So the delayed dock really isn't as big of an issue as it would be if there weren't so many other options out there. So the second and third news story I have for you guys today are both Sony related, because not only did we just get a state of play where surprisingly SpiderMan Remastered was just announced for PC, we also got a huge update for God of War 2018 that adds in FSR 2.0. If you have a Steam Deck already, you definitely know what FSR is because it's built into the Steam Deck OS, but it's basically, and I know it's a little bit different, but it's basically AMD's answer to NVIDIA's DLSS, where you're upscaling a game running at a lower resolution with AI, and it generally looks pretty good, but when you compare FSR 1.0 to where DLSS is or has been from the beginning, DLSS was pulling ahead by quite a lot, and FSR 2.0 is doing a really good job at evening that out. The biggest feature that comes along with FSR 2.0 is temporal upscaling that takes more image data into account, like from a multitude of frames, so multiple frames at once versus one frame at a time, which is how FSR 1.0 worked. And after downloading God of War again and trying out this new version of FSR, this is the definitive way to play the game as far as I'm concerned, because it smooths out so many of those frame time issues where you would see stutters in native resolution using PS4 settings. Now you can even bump it up to high settings, and using FSR's quality mode, it looks incredible. Honestly, to my eye, it looks on par, if not a little bit better than what we had at native resolution with the original settings. And it adds a little bit more blur to stuff in the distance. Like I've seen images side by side where if you look at pine tree needles, they look a little more blurry using FSR's quality mode than they do in native settings. But if you're playing on a 7-inch screen or however big the Steam Deck screen is, you're definitely not going to notice that difference. The only thing that I wouldn't recommend is using the performance mode because A, you don't need it. If you're playing at 30 frames per second, the quality mode works absolutely fine, and B, there is a very noticeable drop off from the original settings at native resolution to using FSR 2.0's performance mode to the point where it just looks grainy and blurry. It has artifacting. It's good, it's just not good enough for my eye, and especially after using DLSS on the NVIDIA side of the fence on my gaming laptop, that's where you really start to see the fall off with FSR versus DLSS. I know they're different technologies. Once again, someone always loves to point it out in the comments, but I'm comparing these as apples to apples because that's how the average user sees them. Like, you're not looking into the minute differences between FSR and DLSS. In most people's minds, these are competing technologies that are doing largely the same thing, and if you want to run at higher frame rates and higher settings, especially on the Steam Deck, this is a technology that you should, or at least should want to, take advantage of. So to know that we're getting more and more games that are supporting FSR 2.0, that's exactly what I want to see. But then when you switch over to the performance mode of FSR 2.0, it's immediately clear that you're running at a much lower resolution, and that trade-off just isn't worth it to me. I'm definitely going to dig into these settings more to see if I can find the perfect middle ground to run at 40 Hertz and 40 frames per second, and I feel confident now with FSR 2.0 that that could actually be done. But yeah, one game I really hope has FSR 2.0 at launch on August 12th is SpiderMan Remastered, because yeah, we are getting this game on PC. Sony showed it off today in their best state of play ever, in my opinion, right here on June 2nd, and yeah, this was a huge surprise because it wasn't in the NVIDIA leak that we got a long time ago. They showed the Nix's logo. They're putting that studio to work after picking them up. Insomniac games on PC, the ones that we're able to play, work really well. Even on the Steam Deck, Sunset Overdrive, which has a lot of shared DNA with Spider-Man and Spider-Man Remastered, that game looks and runs really well on the Steam Deck. So I'm feeling pretty confident that we're going to be able to play this game at launch on this handheld device. And this is where the Steam Deck really becomes the Vita replacement for me, because it's playing the actual PS4 games that we were getting a few years ago. It's not just playing ports of remastered PS2 games or PSP games or PS1 games, and it can do that on its own already through EmuDeck, which is great, but we are getting the full-on PS4 games instead of handheld-oriented games. So yeah, having Spider-Man on a handheld, that's what's going to make me shell out probably $50 at launch to play it again, even though I won't have my save. I got the platinum in the first Spider-Man game, but being able to take this on the go, that's making it feel like a new game in my mind, which is the utility of the Steam Deck. It was also interesting to see Spider-Man from Nix's, because the rumors have been that they're working on Ghost of Tsushima's director's cut being ported over to PC, so hopefully that means they're done with that port, or at least they're just polishing it up for a Steam release. We know that Sony is going to have half of their biggest games on PC by 2025, so knowing that we're getting Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection and now Spider-Man, that makes me even more hopeful for stuff like Ghost of Tsushima, or even day one releases in the future. That would be awesome. So yeah, next in line I feel like is Last of Us Part 2. That would be a great game to see on PC. Gran Turismo 7 is another candidate, especially knowing that's a live service game. I feel like Sony's going to want that on PC sooner rather than later after seeing how much money Forza Horizon 5 made. And of course, Horizon Forbidden West came out on PS4, so if that does come to PC, or when it comes to PC, I feel like we'll have no trouble running that at all on the Steam Deck. Either way, it's really really working out for us handheld PC gamers that Sony doesn't want to make a Vita 2, because now we're just playing their console games on our own handheld, and that is awesome.